Well, howdy folks, and welcome back to the channel. In this video, I am going to be answering one of the toughest questions I get asked all the time regarding how to discuss price with your clients. And here is the first big secret, folks. This is not just for private investigators. It can relate directly to just about any business out there that does phone sales or just about any type of sales, be it in person, online, or whatever. The first obstacle we often must overcome when it comes to phone sales is the "I don't have a budget" comment from the prospective client. From my experience, almost every client that calls us has some budget in mind. The problem is they do not want to throw out the first number. And that makes sense. What if they call for a background check and tell you they don't want to spend more than $500? Well, then it is easy for you to compile a quick quote for less than $500, isn't it? And the old salesman saying goes, the one to throw out the first number loses. And this is often the case when pricing our services over the phone. Obviously, if it is a call about a flat fee service, let's say process serving, the price may be very easy to just blurt out. But wait, how much money are you leaving on the table when you do that? If your fee for routine service or process is, let's say, $85, if you just blurt out that number, well, you have probably left money on the table in many instances. Do you offer expedited service? Do you offer same-day rush service? How many documents and pages are being served? These are all upsell opportunities, so you really want to think this through carefully before just throwing out a number. Now, one of my best sales techniques for investigative services is simply to ask the client what budget they have in mind. And most of the time, the first answer is, well, I don't really have a budget. But what is the client really saying? What they really mean is they do not want to throw out the first number, and you shouldn't be so quick to throw out the first number either. When I ask the client this question, what kind of budget do you have in mind? I am looking for a starting point in the sales conversation. When the client asks me for a ballpark figure of what the investigation may cost, they are really trying to price shop me. And here is yet another huge secret that most PIs don't ever think about. Are you ready for this? Come here, come a little closer. You probably aren't the first PI the client has had this conversation with. Chances are the client has called at least some of your competitors and has done some research online to get an idea of what it may cost of the investigation they have in mind. Now, that may be a very broad range of potential costs, let's say from $2,000 to $10,000. But what if they know that? Then they probably do have a budget in mind somewhere in that range. If you just blurt out a generic quote, and I hear this all the time when I price check my competitors, you will more often not get the job. Wait, you do price check your competitors, don't you? You do realize that your competitors price check you, don't you? If you haven't been doing this, you probably need to consider doing it fairly soon so you know how they sell against you. So when the client tells me they don't have a budget in mind and they ask me for a ballpark figure, I will usually throw out some arbitrary, high ridiculous figure like $20,000. But I don't just say, well, we can get started for 20 grand. That would pretty much end the conversation right there. What I will say is something like, well, what if I said we could start for 20 grand? This will usually get a quick response of something like, wait, I wasn't thinking of spending that much. Now you know the client does have a budget in mind, but don't tell the client that right away. First, you need to understand this one secret before you even consider throwing out a price. That one thing you need to know is what the client's problem is that they need solved, and that is quickly followed up by what services they are wanting to help them fix that problem. I will usually continue the conversation then with something like, yep, I agree, 20 grand is a lot of money, and to be honest, most of our investigations require a considerably smaller retainer to get started. First, tell me what's going on. Then sit back and listen, take notes, and listen some more. The key here is listening more than taking notes. After listening to the client's problems and finding out what they are hoping to get done, you can better formulate a custom quote for their unique situation. But wait, hang on, don't blurt out that number yet. I will then reiterate some of the key things the client told me and then ask them again what their budget is, but maybe in a more roundabout way this time. Okay, Mr. Client, based on what you're telling me, it sounds like you would probably want to conduct some surveillance to see what activities your wife is involved in when you are out of town. Does that sound good? It sounds like you often go out of town on business on Mondays and come back on Wednesdays. Are there other days besides these you might want us to conduct surveillance? Now you are engaging the client, getting them to answer questions rather than ask questions. Now I can often work up to a price quote then with something like this. Great, let me pull up my calculator really quick. Now, I am sure you know there is a wide range of variables involved in the cost of a surveillance like this. Some of those variables being how much surveillance will be done, the risk factor we need to consider, mileage, investigator hours, etc. Can you give me a ballpark idea of what you would like to spend on this? You know, kind of a not to exceed number. I can then formulate a custom plan just for you to make sure we can get the job done correctly. Folks, you will usually get a number from the client at this point, but wait, the job ain't done yet. The sale has not been closed. Your next step should be to give a summary of details of the type of investigation you would conduct for them based on their budget. Now, this is a bit tricky. I usually try to stay slightly under their budget. This way, they get a win in the transaction. So if they say they don't want to spend over $5,000 and they would prefer to not even have to spend that much, I will do a quick calculation to see how many hours of surveillance works into, let's say, $4,000. Okay, Mr. Client, we can definitely help you out with this. What I would suggest is to schedule 2 rounds of surveillance. We could do surveillance next Monday and Tuesday and the following Monday and Tuesday to see what your wife is up to. Mr. Client, we can do this for you with a retainer of $4,000. All we need to do is put together a contract, which we can take care of electronically. Let me get some information from you really quick. Now get the client's information you need to make the contract. You know, the client's name, address, email, subject's name, and some details. Then tell them you will get the contract sent over via whatever method you use to do e-signatures. And you will also send them a brief questionnaire, client intake form, to have them fill out too, and an invoice for the retainer. Now, here are some other key secrets to help you formulate that unique quote for the client and ensure you get more sales closed. First, do not always think about just the dollars and cents of it. If the client says they do not want to exceed $5,000, then you do not want to use all of that $5,000. If you know you can do the job for them and save the client a considerable amount of money, then by all means let them know that and quote them a price for that. For instance, in the case I just used as an example, if the client has no child custody concerns, or even if they are not married, I may only quote a single round of surveillance. So instead of quoting 4 days for $4,000, simply trying to get the most of what the client is willing to spend, I may go this route instead. Mr. Client, based on what I have heard from you, your biggest concern is just knowing if your wife is being unfaithful at this time. Is that correct? And you have no children involved. Is that correct? I know you may have quotes from other PIs for 4, 5, or even 6 days of surveillance, but based on my experience, Mr. Client, I would recommend we start off slower. I would suggest we cover next Monday and Tuesday and see what information we gather from that. Then if anything is going on and you need more evidence to help prepare you for legal actions, we can discuss further surveillance and other investigative services we may be able to offer. Mr. Client, we can cover next Monday and Tuesday for a retainer fee of $2,000. This retainer should cover the entire investigation, and in fact, our contract states we will not go over our retainer without your permission. Let me get some information from you, and I can get the contract sent over to you right away. Now you have set things up where you are helping the client get the answers he needs within an affordable budget for less than your competitors because you are not being greedy about it. Now I know there are some of you thinking, well, John, you just left $3,000 on the table. Are you crazy? You know what, folks? I may be crazy, but I also know I need to do what is right by my client. And in most of those cases, like what I just went over, I will usually get a round 2 and sometimes a round 3 of surveillance. Plus, I often get some other work from the client, like backgrounds, process serving, and testimony time during court. And I get to sleep better knowing I did right by my client and got a new case in at the same time. Now, listen up closely. If you would like to know the secrets to writing the big insurance contracts, then watch this video.